It's Monday, and that means it's time for a new episode of the Joust About Careers podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Brauneller, and I'm a career advisor and English teacher at Buren High School who has seen too many people spend a lot of money and time working toward careers they don't enjoy or that don't help them achieve the purposes they've identified for their lives. I want to make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else. My guest today is Ryan Brauneller, an environmental health and safety manager with ICU Medical. Ryan will be sharing about what an EHS manager does, how he changed career paths halfway through college, the personal characteristics which make EHS managers successful, how a former coach helped him on his career path, and much more. I hope that what Ryan shares today will help all of my listeners make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Joust About Careers podcast. And today we have 2013 Van Buren graduate Ryan Brauneller with us. And he's going to be talking to us about his career as an environmental health and safety manager at ICU Medical. So Ryan, thank you very much for joining us to talk about this career and let other people know about a career that I have a feeling is probably unfamiliar to a lot of them. So to get us started, I'd love to know, what does an environmental health and safety manager actually do?
Yeah, so we have a pretty wide variety of job tasks that we do, but ultimately we basically implement and any OSHA regulations, anything with the EPA, we're implementing that within our work environment, whether that may be construction, that could be manufacturing industry, which is what I'm familiar with. But anywhere that has some sort of OSHA regulation that applies to them, that is kind of what we do. We implement the rules and regulations and do the best at that, which is always a little bit more challenging than most people may think. But we're trying to keep people safe as much as possible.
So when you talk about OSHA, not sure everyone will know what that means. I guess, what is that body? Do they cover everything, or are there local branches of that? How does that work?
Yeah, so OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So basically, we've got a Bible that looks like this. This is our safety Bible, and it's got rules and regulations for in any different industry. Like I said, construction industry, maritime, which is boating. I work in the general industry, which is more manufacturing. Anything that's, so you get, for instance, like you guys do tornado short and shelter in place drills. All right, that's implemented by OSHA. So that's something that I do. Right? Or tornado drill. All the students love the tornado drill, to get out for 20 minutes whenever that day comes. But that is implemented by OSHA, ultimately to keep employees safe within the workplace.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So you went to the University of Findlay and graduated with a degree in environmental safety and occupational health management. Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about what that was like? Were there a lot of people earning that degree? Is your degree one that maybe not a whole lot of people know about? What was your time at University of Findlay like, and tell us about that degree?
Yeah, so I actually started off in physical therapy. Did that for 2.5 years. Just kind of realized that wasn't for me. I wasn't enjoying the career path that was taking me down. So I met with some advisors, and they actually introduced me to the ESOH program. I actually had no idea about it. And majority of my classes were 2 classrooms away from where I had a lot of my physical therapy classes. That's just because it's a pretty small program. It's actually an accredited program and nationally recognized within our nation. And so I had some meetings with the advisors and then eventually the dean of that program. And it interested me. I'm not going to lie. There's times where I'm like, hey, how did I even get in this program, to be honest? But actually, I enjoy what I do every day because I have a purpose. My job is to make sure that a mom or father, uncle, sister, whoever that may be, gets to go home later that day, right? We hear about all these big massive fire explosions or chemical release or anything like that within manufacturing facilities. That boils down to the environmental health and safety manager. My job is to make sure that they go home every single day to their families exactly how they came in. And I like to say all 10 fingers and all 10 toes. And, but yeah, so my classes were relatively small. Maybe some of my specialized classes maybe had 10 to 15 people in them, where some of my maybe larger general education classes maybe had 30 to 40, but very specialized, very small program. I think I may have graduated with maybe 25 to 30 people in my program. And they all kind of went different directions. Like I said, you can go into consulting, you can go into education for the occupational safety and health or the EPA. You can go into general industry, which is like manufacturing. You can go into construction. So I know a lot of my colleagues went up to the Husky refinery up there in Toledo, and so or Lima. So that's what I really like about my program is that there's 100% job placement. And the only time that you don't get a job is if you're like, hey, I want that specific job and that's the only thing I'm going for. And so that's what I really enjoy is I have a broad scope of work that I can work with.
100% job placement should make a lot of people interested in this career
Yeah.
because, and the fact that because it is a highly sought career, they pay you well because of that. So 100% job placement and a good salary, those are always a winner in my book.
Same here.
You started your career journey with an internship with Crown, and they make the forklifts and so forth. And then eventually that led to a full-time position with Crown. Can you tell us a little bit about the internship, and did you have other opportunities to go other places, or was Crown just a place that felt very comfortable for you because of the internship? What was that experience?
Yeah, so I unfortunately had a very unorthodox process in order to get an internship. Since I came in 2.5 years already into college, I came pretty late into the program, so I actually had a lot of my gen eds already done, but I didn't have a lot of the specific ESOH classes completed or even have any experience in it. So when it came down to having an internship, I had a kind of a date that I wanted to graduate with. We had a career fair or an internship fair at Findlay. And honestly, Crown was one that was just kind of in the corner and saying, hey, we've got an internship over here. And literally right next to them was Marathon and BP. And everyone was obviously there. And I'm like, hey, I need an internship. And that was the spring internship fair. And it was for that coming summer. And Crown is located in New Bremen, Ohio, which is just an hour 15 south of Van Buren. And so I didn't really care what I was going to be doing. I just needed some sort of experience and internship. And I actually ended up getting an opportunity to work in their corporate office for the full summer. And thankfully, they allowed me to work 3 days a week during that fall semester. And during that fall semester, since I had kind of given my dedication to them and really making that strive to be with that company, they gave me the opportunity to have a full-time position that following December upon graduation. And I guess that was my path for that. But I was involved in a lot of different projects. Nothing really that was like admin work or going to get my coffee or anything like that. They really gave me the opportunity to dig into projects and assist as much as I possibly can. As I was obviously an intern, not with a whole lot of experience, they gave me some easy stuff, but eventually kind of said, hey, here's a whole project, work with so-and-so to get that completed. And kind of gave me that pathway, but really gave me that opportunity to really show them like, hey, I can take over a program or I can have my own plant and be successful at that. And so thankfully through some of their tasks that they gave me, worked really very hard to get that because I knew there was a great opportunity, a worldwide, well-known employer industry, and I knew that if I could do well at my internship, they basically said like, hey, if you do well at this, we can make you a position. And I jumped on that as much as I could, did everything I could, and thankfully it paid off, and I had a great start to my career.
That experience is always useful. And like you said, you showed them that you were valuable and you had a lot to bring to them, and they created positions. So that's
Yeah.
a great way to go. So you started as a specialist there, eventually ended up as a safety engineer, and then you went to T. Marzetti. Now, when I think T. Marzetti, I think salad dressing. Am I correct?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So what led you to go from forklifts to salad dressing?
So I had the opportunity. So I'll go back up in the crowd. So I had the opportunity to move up into another position after the specialist. Specialist and technician are kind of like the bottom feeders, but that's okay. You need to get in somehow. So I was able to make it up into an engineer position, have a little bit more responsibility under my belt. Did that for a couple of years, and then I got married. So I got married in May, and my wife and I kind of talked, said, hey. We want to stay here in New Bremen, Ohio, or she was here at Abercrombie and Fitch at their corporate office here in Columbus. So I said, hey, I'm always down to move to Columbus. My job is a little bit more higher demand than hers. She works in the fashion industry. So I moved here, and that's how I ended up at T. Marzetti. So if you ever have anything like caramel dip or the chocolate dips or anything that's comes in the small little container with the green lid, that came from my facility. Also, any of the honey barbecue or honey mustard from Chick-fil-A, that came from my facility as well.
Very cool.
Yep.
So in that situation, we know your job is all about safety. Is it just more making sure machines are functioning and all the guards are in place, that there aren't places that people can slip, that there are clear walkways that people need to stay in? Or is there more to it than those safety activities?
It's pretty much that. It's when you look at it from a bird's eye view, it's pretty simple, right? Keep people safe. But when you start to dig into it, it gets a little bit more complicated because there are certain regulations that you have to follow. That you mentioned guarding, right? Guarding has to be a certain distance from the point of operation, so you can't just slap some guards on it and call it a day, right? But there are certain measurements you have to take. There are certain regulations that you have to follow. You have to a lot of different training. So, for instance, walking, working surfaces. You mentioned slip, trips, and falls, right? Make sure someone doesn't slip on this wet puddle. It sounds simple, but it's a lot of different training aspects to make sure that people are aware of those things. Because something that I learned going to a bigger city, right? Going from Van Buren, small little village, a little bit bigger in Findlay, but moving down to Columbus, you get a wide variety of different people, right? Different nationalities, different ethnic backgrounds. And so when you get to that point to where someone may not understand you as much as you can, you have to really make that effort to get that relationship with those people so that they understand why you're there. You're not just a check mark the box. You really are looking after them for their own safety and the safety of the others around them.
So now you're at ICU Medical, and you are the manager there for environment, health, and safety.
Yep.
And when I was looking at ICU Medical to learn a little bit more about them, it looked to me like they're based out in California. So do they have a business in Columbus as well, or is this something that you do remotely? How does that work?
So their corporate office is out of California, but they have manufacturing facilities all across the world. So our main objective, so my plant especially, is injection molding of medical devices. We actually have some product, so we call this airway. All right, so you've noticed this within a hospital. They make a lot of cock stops for blood transfusions. I don't know the medical terms for it, but basically just anything that's plastic, right, that goes into medical equipment, we have the ability to make.
Okay. Now, do you have a staff that works for you as part of your department? Are you the department? How does that work?
So up until this job, it was only me that would look after the entire department. At Crown, I looked after about 350 employees.
Wow.
Marzetti was about 175 to 200. Now I've got somebody underneath me, and so I have one direct report to me, which is new, but I'm really glad I had that opportunity. That's what I was striving to find. And I look about 250 to 300 right now. So it really all depends on how the workplace is set up. I mean, I'm not saying that the other companies didn't take it as serious, because those companies really did. That's why I went there. But it's just kind of how companies look at safety. And hey, we've got engineers that can do projects, or they gave me somebody here at ICU that does the projects for me. So it's just kind of how they set it up, and who kind of reports to who.
Right. Those hierarchies are always different from one place to another.
And that was one of the main reasons I looked for the job at ICU, because I have aspirations of being a director of some sort, or manager of a bigger facility. And I didn't have that opportunity at my last jobs, having a direct report, giving them that proper training, like, hey, you may not be very good at this. I'm going to get you into these training classes through the Bureau of Workman's Comp, just getting them up to speed. And if he ever wants my job, he can take my job, kind of thing, if I ever go somewhere else. So
right. And I think that has to be, you talked about purpose before, and that has to be fulfilling for you to see other people succeed because of how you have fed into them and helped them grow and learn. Right.
Yep, I'm his coach every day. He's never had a safety position before. He's 2 years into it. I actually got the job in the midst of COVID. And so I'm just making sure every day he's not just doing stuff. He's doing it with a purpose, and he's helping out the program. So I enjoy that. I enjoy having somebody to coach every day and give them projects and watching them grow.
If someone wanted to go into this career field, are there any characteristics of someone who is typically successful in this field?
I would probably say the best attribute you could have was maybe just like communication, right? And just wanting to grow as much as possible. Always taking that opportunity. Like I mentioned before, at my internship in Crown, they gave me a lot of different opportunities, and I did everything I could to jump on it as much as I could, to soak in as much information. I mean, there's so many different regulations and rules that you have to follow within OSHA or the EPA. That you try and soak it in as much as you can. Then communication and teamwork, right? So I'm only one person. I can't look after 250 people or 300, 400 people, sometimes thousands of people. But that's where you have a team, and you can develop that team of different employees within the workplace to look after other people, right? So it's not just, I'm not a safety cop, right? So I'm not out there trying to audit and making sure someone's doing something and you're going to be fired. No, I take that opportunity to coach. It's actually called behavioral-based safety, and I've actually earned a subject matter expert certification in behavior-based safety because I enjoy that coaching. I enjoy making that relationship with the employees and having them understand, hey, I'm here to help you, not here to audit, catch you, and fire you, get out the door. No, that's not what I'm here to do.
Right.
So yeah, anywhere between communication, teamwork, and just soaking in all the information you can. That has really made me successful in the job path that I've taken.
Good. What's the best part about this career field?
It's a new project every day. Every day I have a plan of what I'm going to do for that day, and it never happens because something may come up. I need to do this training, or somebody may have got hurt, so I have to manage that and that investigation to make sure I know exactly what happened and report it to who. And really, every day I'm looking for new opportunities. Opportunities could be different trainings that I may be missing. It could be different. We do risk assessments, so we're looking for that next place that an injury could happen to be preventative. So I'm definitely not a retroactive job. I try not to be. I want to find that next place that somebody could get hurt and ultimately um, find a countermeasure to make sure that somebody doesn't get hurt there. So like I said, it sounds really simple until you really start to dig into it and all the rules and regulations that you have to follow and different tools that you can use. And that's kind of what I like doing. I like bringing it all together and finding or getting a final piece together.
Those rules and regulations. I mean, you held that book up, and boy, that thing is huge.
I call it the safety Bible for a reason.
Right, yeah.
Because I'm in it every other day, making sure I understand exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and how to do it.
Right.
That's another thing is every company follow these or should be following them, but every company may do it a little bit differently. So that's something I've learned going from my previous 3 jobs is there's different ways to skin a cat, right? So there's always different ways to get to the final project. And it's kind of your way to, or your opportunity to figure out that way.
So all of those rules, I'm sure, lead to a lot of paperwork. And yeah. I'm guessing that might be one of the more difficult parts of this job, or maybe one of the less enjoyable parts. Is there something else that makes this job difficult that if you could eliminate that part of the job, you would maybe enjoy it even more? So I guess ultimately, what's the most difficult part of this position?
I would say the most difficult part or most frustrating, maybe just those bonehead injuries that somebody could have prevented very easily. Like, sounds really simple, but somebody just slipping on a puddle that was on the floor. It sounds super easy. Anybody would probably clean it up, but it's that person that doesn't, and then the next person falls on it. You could have prevented that really easily just by simple mop and bucket, right? But yeah, paperwork, especially now that I'm in a medical facility, we are FDA approved. So that requires a lot more paperwork that I'm not used to, but I'm getting used to it. But no, I really do love my job. People always say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? That's me. I really do love my position. There are some frustrating days where I'm swamped from the time I walk in to the time I leave, but that just makes my job that much more fun. So I love what I do.
You talked a little bit about the certification you had earned, and obviously you have a 4-year degree. And are there opportunities in this career field that can be accomplished by earning certifications, doing an apprenticeship, or does it pretty much all start with the 4-year degree and then you can get additional training from there?
No, and that's another thing that I really enjoy about this. The opportunity that I have here in ESOH. Is it more difficult? Yes, but specifically at Crown, I mentioned I've got different teams that I manage. Right, those are on floor employees. So those are employees that run a machine or assemble different parts. They're on a subcommittee team. I give them specific training, but it's all voluntary. Right, so I don't say, hey, you have to be on this team. I ask them if they do. And that's actually how the guy that's reporting to me now, that's actually how he got into his position, is that he volunteered for different teams. He volunteered for different projects, really got engulfed into the safety realm of it. And they all actually said, like, hey, you're really valuable to our safety program. Would you want to be part of it? Would you want to actually have a full-time position within it? And obviously he said yes. So he did welding for years. He did sheet metal work for years. He worked in our grinding department for, I think, 12 or 15 years before he finally got that opportunity. But you can definitely get there by volunteering for those different teams. Now, like I said, I work in manufacturing. I can't speak for construction. I'm confident they've got different teams and different avenues that you can get to that point. But that's kind of what I've been exposed to.
Okay, that's interesting. And I think a lot of times students think that, well, if I go work in a factory, I'm just going to stay in that same job forever. But I think this is a great example of there are opportunities to advance, do other things based on interests, and maybe those interests are developed once in that job. And I think those are some really good opportunities for people that maybe don't have that 4-year degree. They can still start down that path. I
Absolutely.
think that's really interesting.
Yep. And I mean, some of the smartest people I ever met were just machinists. I mean, man, they're so good at mathematics. And I mean, they can run that machine better than a car runs, kind of thing. It's just unbelievable. So I never want to push college on somebody. I mean, the opportunities are endless wherever you go. It's just the application or whatever you want to do, right? I mean, if you're passionate in it, absolutely go for that, whatever
Right.
it may be.
Right. So kind of a fun question. I'm sitting here thinking about T. Marzetti. That place had to smell good, didn't it?
You'd be surprised. It really didn't. It did every once in a while, but on Monday you could be making ranch. On Tuesday you could be making caramel. On Wednesday you could be making barbecue sauce. So mix all those flavors together. It doesn't necessarily smell the greatest. Numerous times where I came home and I smelled, so I instantly just threw everything in the washer. But yeah, you would think, but it really.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess when you think about all of those scents mixing, not maybe the best option.
The best day was the chocolate day, the chocolate dip. It basically smelled like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory in there, and so those were good days. But then you come in the next, and it's mixed with dill dip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would not be good. That would not be good. So as we wrap up, you've obviously gained a lot of experience in your time in college, after college, in the working world. Is there anything that you know now about life or careers that you wish you had known when you were in high school?
I want to say a lot, but I don't know specifically. Right? I guess I know sophomore year we had to do the report on what we think we're going to do for the rest of our life. Don't be afraid to switch careers, right? Obviously, I did that in the middle of college. I was 2.5 years into a 3-year undergraduate, and I did it. It wasn't me. And obviously, I definitely went through some nights where it was very stressful. But I used my opportunity, had the opportunity to talk to people that have been through that before. I don't know if you remember him, but Phil Gunder, he was a football coach for a while. He's actually the one that hooked me up into ESOH. But I had, like I said, some stressful nights. Should I do this? Should I not? Take that opportunity. Took that opportunity to move to Columbus. And so you never know if you never try, right? So if you don't feel comfortable, talk to some people that may have been already through that. Pray about it, right? If you're religious, you can definitely do that. But talk to people that's been through it before. It's people do it, right?
Right.
I can almost every one of my friends that I have now, they switched in college, or they switched careers after they got out of college, or they switched careers after they started in a factory line, whatever it may be. Don't be afraid to switch if you don't feel comfortable.
No decision is absolutely final until I decide that it is. So I think that's great advice. And Ryan, it's great to hear from you. Great to hear that you're doing well and enjoying your career. And I really appreciate you sharing all of this for everyone else, and look forward to seeing how your career continues into the future. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Joust About Careers podcast. I hope you learned valuable information from this career story, and to be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for watching, and as always, this is the place to go to learn just about careers.